kids of parents who cheated. How did you handle the situation? My dad cheated on mom and left her to be with the homewrecker. So my little brother exposed the homewrecker at their reception. My mom is a very strong woman. My little brother and I, on the other hand, were quite devastated. We went from having a perfect family to having to switch houses every week. My mom became depressed, but she kept a strong face for our sake. She encouraged us to be at least civil with her, so we could still have dad in our lives. I wanted nothing to do with him in the homewrecker. My little brother changed. He went from being a kind and respectful kid to a kid with a mission when he found out. His words exactly were that they're both going to regret this. My brother idolized my dad, but now he wanted to hurt him. I did not want any sort of relationship with the homewrecker, but my brother still wanted to have a relationship with dad. I only went for his sake. Her and dad both sat us down and apologized on how things ended up. My brother looked pissed, but he just played it cool. I could tell he was faking his attitude. I had just graduated from high school, and I was scheduled to attend college the following September. I needed to get out of the toxic situation. I kept in regular contact with my mom and brother, but with dad it was minimal. Whenever he texted me, I was civil, but I was not as loving as I used to be. After my first year, I went back home for the summer, and lo and behold, dad and homewrecker are getting married and wanted us to be a part of it. I wasn't having any of it, but my brother encouraged me to participate because it would make dad happy before his world came crashing down. I asked him what he meant by that, and all he said was that I should definitely go to the wedding. It's going to be a day to remember. Were his words exactly? What could a 16-year-old do? Well, my brother proved to me that age doesn't matter. The wedding ceremony was actually nice, and so was the reception. The wedding, by the looks of it, cost at least $30,000. They went all out. In the days following the wedding disaster, my father's life unraveled quickly. His new wife filed for divorce before even unpacking from the honeymoon that never happened. The mistress, humiliated in front of everyone, vanished without a trace. My father, once arrogant and full of confidence, had become a shadow of the man I used to know. He called us every day, leaving messages begging for forgiveness, pleading for a chance to explain. Neither my brother nor I answered. There was nothing left to hear. My mom finally seemed to breathe again. For the first time in months, she started taking care of herself, smiling more, and getting back into a routine. She always told us that pain teaches valuable lessons, but deep down, it was clear that seeing my father reap what he sowed gave her a quiet sense of justice. My brother, however, remained colder than ever. He never spoke about the wedding, as if it had just been one necessary step in a larger plan. I could tell that his thirst for revenge wasn't quenched. That event was just the beginning of something bigger, something I couldn't fully understand yet. There was a dangerous glint in his eyes, an unwavering determination that was impossible to ignore. One day, while I was at home helping my mom rearrange things, my brother walked into the kitchen with a small, knowing smile on his face. I knew he was scheming. He asked me to talk in private, and with a cryptic tone, he said, "Do you think it's over?" I stayed silent, trying to grasp what he was implying. He continued, "Dad tore our family apart. Watching him crumble isn't enough. He needs to understand. He needs to feel what it's like to lose everything. Just like we did. I was exhausted. I just wanted to leave the past behind and move on with my life." But my brother wasn't ready to let go. He spent weeks digging, searching for every financial or personal connection our father still had. Slowly but surely, he found cracks in the new life our dad was trying to rebuild. Hidden debts, old affairs that were about to surface, shady business deals that could destroy whatever hope of a fresh start he had. I tried to reason with him. I told him it was enough, that keeping this going would only prolong our own suffering. But he just gave me a cold, unwavering stare. "He deserves every second of this," he said, "and I'll make sure he never forgets." The following weeks were a whirlwind. With a chilling sense of calm, my brother began orchestrating events that seemed almost surreal. He tracked down former mistresses and arranged for them to confront our father publicly, forcing him to deal with mounting scandals. He exposed fraudulent financial transactions, and one of the companies my dad invested in went bankrupt, leaving him drowning in debt. Our father, once seen as a respected man, became the subject of ridicule and scorn. People distanced themselves from him. He was left alone, no wife, no friends, and now no money. Desperate, he reached out to us once again, hoping for some form of reconciliation. He even showed up at our mom's house, begging her to intervene. She looked at him with an emotionless expression and said, "You made your choices. Now live with them." It was painful to see him in that state, but my brother showed no sign of pity. His plan wasn't done yet. He was determined to see it through to the bitter end. One night, he pulled me aside for another conversation. This time, his tone was even more mysterious. "It's almost done," he said with a cold smile. "Just one more piece. After that, his story will be complete." I looked at him, a mix of fear and curiosity washing over me. I asked what he was planning next. He gave me a sly grin and replied, "You'll see. It's going to be better than anything you can imagine." With that, he stood up and walked out of the room, leaving me alone with my thoughts. There was a heavy feeling in the air, as if something much bigger was coming, something I couldn't stop. Whatever it was, I knew it wouldn't be small. My brother wasn't the same boy I once knew. In his revenge, it wasn't over yet. After all the chaos my brother caused in our father's life, he still didn't seem satisfied. It was as if the financial and emotional destruction of our father had only been a step in his plan. Each day that passed, he became colder, more obsessed with the idea of making our father feel everything he had made us endure. While my mother tried to move on, albeit with difficulty, my brother seemed determined to pull her back into the crossfire. One night, while we were having dinner, I noticed my brother talking quietly with our mother in the kitchen. He spoke with a calm, almost hypnotic tone. My mother listened attentively, her eyes tired and her expression that of someone always expecting the next blow from life. I approached, trying to understand what was going on. "You have every right to ask for alimony, Mom. He destroyed our family, left you with nothing, while spending a fortune on his mistress. Now it's your turn to get a bit of justice. And you know, he can't afford to pay. This will teach him a lesson he'll never forget." I stayed silent. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My brother wanted our mother to demand alimony, knowing that our father had no means to pay, and consequently, he would end up in jail. It was a calculated, cruel, and merciless revenge. I tried to argue, but my brother cut me off with a cold stare. "He deserves it, and you know it. He showed no mercy to us when he left. Do you really think he cared about what we'd go through? Now it's our turn to make him feel it." My mother was hesitant. She didn't like the idea of making things worse, but the pain and resentment she carried made my brother's proposal sound tempting. He kept insisting day after day until she gave in. She decided to file a lawsuit to demand alimony. I could see the mix of doubt and guilt in her eyes, but there was also a glimmer of justice, or at least what my brother had convinced her was justice. The process moved quickly. My father was notified, and I heard that he was desperate. He no longer had resources. Everything he owned had been lost as a result of my brother's schemes. Failed businesses, debts, and old affairs exposed. The only thing left was his pride, now shattered and broken. In court, my mother remained firm, while my father looked like a ghost of the man he used to be. He tried to argue that he couldn't afford to pay, but the judge showed no mercy. The decision was clear. He had to pay alimony, and if he couldn't, there would be legal consequences. My mother simply nodded, showing no emotion. When we left the courtroom, my brother had a satisfied smile on his face. It was a different smile, one that gave me chills. Our mother seemed relieved, but there was also something dark in her eyes. Perhaps it was the realization that she had crossed a line she could never go back from. It didn't take long for the news to arrive. My father couldn't pay the stipulated alimony. The police came to his small, now empty and decaying apartment. He was taken away in handcuffs, while the neighbors watched with expressions of pity and disgust. The scene was captured by someone and ended up on social media. My father became a laughingstock, a man who traded his family for a mistress, lost everything, and was now being arrested for failing to meet his obligations. My brother watched the video several times with an almost macabre satisfaction. He got what he wanted. Our father was destroyed, without dignity, without freedom. My mother, on the other hand, seemed to have finally closed a chapter. She began to smile again, resumed old habits, and even reconnected with friends she had lost during the marriage. I, however, felt a deep emptiness. The revenge had a bitter taste, and the satisfaction my brother seemed to feel only made me realize how much he had changed, and not for the better. He was no longer the sweet, kind boy I knew. There was something dark in him, something that grew every day, feeding off the hatred and pain he spread. One night, as he watched the video again, I asked if he was finally satisfied, if it was enough. He looked at me with that cold and calculating look and replied, "Satisfied? Maybe. But it's not just about satisfaction. It's about justice. He will never forget what he did to us. And now he knows what it's like to lose everything. Every choice has a consequence. And he's just reaping what he sowed." I no longer knew what to say. My brother had become a stranger to me, a stranger who knew no limits when it came to avenging our family. And although I wished it was all over, deep down, I knew that for him, this was just the beginning. The revenge had no end, and I feared what else he might be capable of doing. A few months after visiting my father, I thought I had finally found some stability. My days were simple: work, a few friends, and evenings spent reading or jogging in the nearby park. It was the quiet life I had craved for so long, away from the chaos that had once consumed everything. One evening, after coming home from work, I received a call from my mother. Her voice was shaky, and I could sense the worry behind her words. "Your brother doesn't seem well," she whispered, almost as if she was afraid someone might hear. "He's been distant, quieter. I'm worried about him. I don't know what to do. Maybe you could talk to him. He listens to you." I knew my brother had changed. All the resentment he carried had transformed him into a different person. I was afraid of what he might become, but hearing my mother's voice, I knew I couldn't just ignore it. Reluctantly, I agreed. I took a few days off work and made the trip back to the city I thought I had left for good. The moment I arrived at my mother's house, I realized things were different. The air felt heavy, and the tension was palpable. My mother greeted me with a tired smile, her eyes showing both relief and exhaustion. She hugged me tightly, as if she was afraid I might disappear again. "He's in his room," she said, her voice low. "He spends a lot of time alone, thinking. I don't know what's going on in his head." I nodded, feeling the unease growing in my chest. I walked to my brother's room, the door slightly ajar. I knocked softly and, after a moment, pushed the door open. He was sitting by the window, looking out, lost in his thoughts. He looked thinner, paler, but there wasn't the same empty look I had feared. "Hey," I said quietly, stepping into the room. He turned his head slightly, acknowledging my presence. "You came back," he muttered, his voice lacking much emotion, but without anger either. "Mom's worried about you," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm worried about you. You've been shutting everyone out. What's going on?" He sighed, shaking his head. "I don't know. Maybe I'm just tired of all of this. I thought I'd feel better after everything that happened with Dad, but I don't." I moved closer, sitting beside him. "It's because revenge doesn't heal the pain. It just adds more weight. Maybe it's time we let it all go and try to find a way to move forward. All of us." He looked at me, and for the first time in a long while, I saw something different in his eyes. It wasn't hatred, it wasn't anger. It was sadness, maybe even regret. He nodded slowly. "I want to try," he said softly. "But it's hard. It's hard to let all of it go." I put my hand on his shoulder, giving it a gentle squeeze. "I know it is, but you're not alone. We can do this together." In the days that followed, we all stayed together. It was strange, but also comforting. My brother began to come out of his room more, talking more with my mother. Things weren't resolved, but there was a sense of peace that I hadn't seen in a long time. We all wanted to leave the past behind. A few weeks later, I decided it was time to return to my life. I had managed to help, but I knew I still needed to keep some distance. There was a part of me that still feared what my brother might become, even seeing his efforts to change. But for now, things seemed to be on the right path, and that was enough. Before leaving, I decided to visit my father in prison. He wouldn't be there much longer. His sentence was nearing its end. When I saw him, I barely recognized him. He looked older, worn out, as if the past few years had taken everything from him. "You came," he said with a sad smile. I nodded, sitting down across from him. There was a silence between us, filled with everything we wanted to say but couldn't. "I'm not here to forgive you," I finally said, breaking the silence. He sighed, nodding slowly. "I know," he replied. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I wanted you to know that I understand now. I deserved everything that happened. I made my choices. I hurt you, your mother, your brother. I thought I could do whatever I wanted without consequences. But I was wrong. And now I live with that every day." I looked at him, and for the first time in years, I saw genuine regret. It didn't change what he had done. It didn't erase the pain, but there was something in his eyes that made me believe him. He was paying the price for his actions, and he knew it. We talked for a while longer, mostly about small things. He asked about my life, how I was doing. I kept it brief, not wanting to open up too much. When the visit ended, he looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of sadness and something that resembled hope. "Maybe someday, you'll be able to forgive me," he said quietly. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready for that, and I didn't know if I ever would be. As I left the prison, I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was still anger, still pain, but also a sense of closure. My father had accepted his fate, and maybe that was the first step towards some kind of peace for both of us. I returned to my new life, far from my family, far from the chaos. I knew my brother still had a long way to go, but for now, everything was calm, and I hoped for all of us that it would stay that way. Maybe in the end, there was a chance for all of us to find peace.